Hello, journal besties. Welcome back to another journal video. In today's video, we're going to talk about everything I read in June, and we're actually going to jump straight into the journal setup. So I fell in love with these stickers from Marigona Sully. They're just so whimsical and magical, and I loved the colors. I thought they were perfect for summer vibes. And I'm hoping to put them together in a patchwork quilt type of layout. I'm also going to pair them with this kind of premium sticker with a fairy on a desk, and that coordinates with the first book that I want to talk about as well. Something I like to do when using a lot of one sticker sheet is cut it up so that I can position it on the page and pre-plan out where I want it to go before I stick it down on the paper. So I'm cutting up two of these sticker sheets. They are similar but have different graphics on them, and I won't need all of these. So I'm going to separate out some of them to use in a future project and kind of pull out my favorites for now and just play with them and position them on the page in a patchwork pattern. Some of these are going to be cut in half. So like the illustrations of a book, those ones I think are better for chopping in half, and some of the other illustrations, which are kind of a full design, will leave as a whole image. So just kind of pre-planning ahead of time which ones will be saved for later and which will be kind of chopped up and repositioned on the page. And then I'm using these letter stickers for June, and it worked out because there are 4 colors, so I was able to make a gradient, but I wasn't really feeling the ticket aesthetic, so we're going to cut off the tickety part and just use the letters. But I thought these colors coordinated so well with the sticker sheets. And then once we got a good head start, I started sticking actual stickers down, making sure that the center image was in the actual center of the page. And I was pretty proud of myself for eyeballing it and getting it correct. So that tells you how much time I spend in my journals. And then just using the dot grid on the paper to help me position and line up the other illustrations on the page. I will say though, I did this whole page with kind of a more spread out design, and I felt like it would have looked better if I joined the corners of all the images. So I went back and peeled off the stickers and put them together. Thankfully, these stickers are very good quality, so they weren't damaged by me pulling them off the paper, and we only had a very minor instance of some paper tearing, which was easily solved with some extra glue. Then after I had everything repositioned, I went back and filled in some of the white patches of the patchwork with some coordinating stickers that I just had in my stash, and then made a border of washi tape. On the right side of the page, I chose a book that I was really excited to read after hearing many positive reviews recently, and that is The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Liene. This is an 8-book series that is currently in progress, so there's going to be more volumes coming out too. And so far, I've only read this first volume, but it follows our main character, Emma, and she is a young girl in Regency era London, and she's just documenting her life. She's just another journal girl like me and you, and she's just gossiping about all of the woes going on, all of the people who are wronging her, all the boys she thinks are cute, and just some gabbing about friends. And it is so cute, so wholesome, and I just truly, truly loved it. Like, I understand why people call this a gem of a series. And again, I could have just binged the whole series right away, but I feel like this is the exact kind of book I need when I really am feeling a palate cleanser. So I'm going to take my time with the series and really enjoy each volume in the right moments. I ended up getting this first volume just 4 stars, mainly because this first book is really just setting up for the series. So there's not a whole lot that has happened so far. But basically, you meet Emma. She is coming home, and she's inherited this house and this trust fund, but she's not going to be able to take any of this money until she turns 21. So that's in a year. So in the meantime, she's kind of just moving into this place that currently her cousin is inhabiting. and they're not on the friendliest of terms. So right away, you've got a little bit of a conflict there in which she uses her journal to vent all of her frustrations. You've also got the gossip with her and her girlfriends, and then also just the pressures of being a woman in a social circle in Regency London. She's got to attend balls, she's got to appease the relatives, and eventually she'll need to find a husband. So it's really setting up for what I think will be such a magical and cozy series. I loved it. My next book is also a very popular book at the moment, and this was the book that we chose for my Book Besties book club. So I'm going to sneak that into this tracker page right here. But unfortunately, I really did not like this book, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, I didn't realize it was a satire. Based on the description of the book, I thought it was a comedy. Essentially, the plot is that there's this trad wife influencer who has a bunch of followers online, and she is kind of just faking her way through it, and she's not very genuine. So one day she wakes up and is in like the 1800s, and now she has to like actually live out a trad wife life, like making the bread, doing the chores. So I'm thinking in my head, this is going to be a comedy. Very quickly into the book, I realized it is satire, which is not necessarily my favorite genre. So I was trying my best just to take every unenjoyable moment, take this villainous character and really understand her. But I just didn't. I just really disliked this book from start to finish. It felt like the author had no idea what a trad wife actually did. And I don't think she's even an influencer, so it just didn't feel very authentic for a character to act the way Natalie did. And of course, every single character in this is unlikable because it's a satire. However, even though the writing was bad and the characters were so bad, I thought the editing was fantastic. And that's honestly why I feel like this book is so addictive. Every chapter ended on some type of cliffhanger, and you're jumping back and forth between like a past, present, future timeline situation. So a lot of people are talking about how they're really confused for most of the book until the very end when you kind of get the full reveal of things. And I think that was done on purpose. Like the writing truly tells you nothing. Like you could read the first couple chapters of the book and the last couple chapters of the book, and you're going to have a similar understanding of what's going on if you just cut out the middle completely. Like nothing even happened. The twist at the end was clever, but not enough to make me not regret reading that book. So I'm giving it 2 stars for clever editing. End of rant. The next book we're going to talk about was also not my favorite, and that is Project Hail Mary. I know, wild. I know so many of you, this is like your favorite book of the year, and it's been on my TBR for a long time. I've been personally recommended this book by multiple people, and of course I'm going to give it a try. Like, I want to know what all the hype is about. I want to watch the movie, and I want to read the book before the movie, so we chose it as our book club pick in Book Club Besties. And I will say that unlike Yesteryear, which I would consider a badly written book, Project Hail Mary is like perhaps like a masterpiece in writing, and it is so well researched. Andy Weir definitely understands his subject matter, and he was able to take science and put it together in a digestible story and make it funny, make it, have some moments where your heart's swelling a little bit and you're really feeling for the cause. So it's by far, like, I totally understand why people loved this book. But for me personally, there was just so much math and so much science and explanation, and my brain just turned off. I was listening to the audiobook and I just didn't care. Didn't care about the space. Didn't care about their mission. I was just like, at this point, just let the earth die. I don't care. But I got through the audiobook, and I did think the ending was really cute. So there's some moments, and it's, again, by far not a bad book. I would recommend it for anyone who enjoys space stories. I just personally think that that's not my thing. So maybe I shouldn't have even read this book, but all that being said, if you haven't heard of Project Hail Mary, basically we're following Ryland Grace, who is the person selected to essentially save the world from this galactic disaster that's about to happen. The kicker is he wakes up on this spaceship and he has no memory of who he is, and there's no other survivors on the spaceship. So he's entirely alone until he eventually meets his best friend, Rocky. And the two of them save their worlds together. And the end was very cute. It was a good book. It was just a little bit boring. That's all I gotta say. Sorry guys, I feel a little feisty today. I don't know. Let's move on to some books that I really loved, like The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. And this was such a beautiful story, and the cover art is amazing, that it deserved a really beautiful spread. So we're going to use this lovely wave washi tape from the Washi tape shop. It's so pretty and gilded, and I love the mix of the waves with the cherry blossoms. I just thought it complemented the cover beautifully, but I did want the waves to really feel like they were coming out into the page. So I'm taking some excess of the tape and cutting it up so I can add a little bit of flavor around the washi tape so it's not just a flat, straight edge. And I think it looks kind of cool, having some, flowers and waves popping out, above that horizon line. So I don't know about you guys, but I have been really into Korean dramas lately, and I just wanted to find a book that felt like a Korean drama. So I went through my TBR, and I've had this one for a minute, and this story is very rooted in Korean folklore, and the main character's name is Mina, which is one of my nicknames. So it felt serendipitous, like I needed to read this book next, and I'm so glad I did because it was beautiful. So this story is about Mina, who lives in a land that is just ravaged with crazy storms. So every year they essentially sacrifice one of their beautiful maidens to the ocean in hopes of appeasing the sea god, and they're hoping that he'll take this maiden as his wife and it'll make him less angry. So this year, Mina actually sacrifices herself to save someone she loves, and she jumps into the ocean, seeking out the Sea King and hoping to bring an end to this chaos that has just been hitting her homeland for so many generations. And you're immediately just thrown into this beautiful underwater realm full of these magical sea creatures and mer people and deities, and you have to learn their magic system and the way that they survive. And quickly, Mina learns that the Sea King is actually not angry at all. He's been put under a spell and he's been asleep. So her mission changes into saving the sea god. This story also just had a really great found family. There's people who come alongside Mina and help her with her quest and lift her up when she's down and give her that encouragement that she needs. And she does the same for them. You've got some red string of fate woven in there and a little bit of romance too, which was very fun, but I really loved it. I'm marking this as a high fantasy read, and it also counted for my audiobook, but I forgot to print out a picture, so I got to do that next month. All right, now let's move on to the final book and my favorite book of the month, which was Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. Rebecca Ross is definitely my favorite author. This is now my 5th book that I've read by her, and she just astounds me every time. So I'm so glad I have some beautiful editions of this one. This is the standard hardcover, and I loved the end papers here, so I decided to take a picture of that to use in my journal. And then I also have the really lovely Fairy Loot edition, and I am just obsessed with the artwork on the cover here. So I also took a picture of this to incorporate in my design today. And then it also had this really lovely title page on the inside that the standard hardcover doesn't have. And I loved that. So we're going to take these elements and print them out on my printer so I can cut them up and make a little bit of a magical collage while I talk about the book. So in Wild Reverence, we are following our main character, Matilda, who is the youngest goddess in her realm. And she is given the position as the herald of the gods, meaning she's going to be able to cross realms and deliver messages. And this is kind of a tricky role to have because she's from this world where gods and goddesses will destroy each other over the longing for power. And what Matilda has is a pretty powerful role. She's able to move between realms. A lot of those rules that apply to other gods don't apply to her. So she has to live in constant fear of protecting her life and her powers. And she's still very young and inexperienced. And then we have our other main character, Vincent. This is a mortal boy who is having these dreams of this girl with red hair who comes and saves him from his nightmares. And we learn that this is Matilda meeting him in his dream space, which is so interesting and fantastic. And that reason alone you should read the book for. So for the beginning of the book, we kind of get both of their stories separately, and they're really only interacting in this dream space. But eventually their paths do cross in real life, and that's when the story really picks up and there's a common cause that they're going after. And their relationship is pretty much doomed from the start. You've got Vincent, who is a mortal human man who is facing political threats and dealing with a very rigid society and expectations of being a lord in his territory. And then you have Matilda, who's from this, immortal realm where gods and goddesses will use cunning means and manipulate everything around them to get what they want. And the two of them have to use their strengths and their upbringing to really fight against this negative fate that is pulling them apart and do everything within their power to stay together, because the two of them truly need each other like they need air to breathe. This is one of the quotes that I underlined. It says, "I pray that my days will be long at your side. Let me fill and satisfy every longing in your soul. May your hand be in mine by sun and by night. Let our breaths twine and our blood become one until our bones return to dust. Even then, may I find your soul still sworn to mine." Her writing is just so poetic and I love it. There are so many annotations in this book, and I could fill pages if I were to rewrite every one of my favorite quotes. But another thing that I really love about her books is that she's always got these really creative magical objects. So in the Elements of Cadence, you had magical instruments. In Divine Rivals, you had magical typewriters. And in Wild Reverence, you've got these magical river slippers and coins that make music. And they're just so creative and fun. And they just give just enough to the story to really help the main character out. And it's just cemented in my brain. Now, every time I think of pretty slippers or coins, I'm going to think of this book. All right, so this book fulfilled a lot of my prompts. First, we've got another high fantasy. I know it's about like gods and goddesses, but it's not Greek mythology. It's definitely a fantasy book. And then this is the book that I chose for my Book Babes book club, and we all loved it. And I was so glad that they were up for a 500+ page read. They did so well. And I'm happy to say that I read this one with my eyeballs. So we get to add it to this page where I color in a spine every time I read a physical copy of a book. So far this year, we don't have too many, so I got to pick up the pace if I'm going to fill up this page. But this was an easy spine to color in because the majority of it is black. I'm leaving a little bit of space on the ends to fill in with these flowers and the sage green color. And then I just need my metallic jelly roll pens to write in the title and the author on the spine. And in between, we've got a little icon of a sword, which was also pretty easy to draw in as well. So wasn't too challenging of a spine to fill in, but I just really love how this spread all looks at the end of the year with all my favorite books imprinted on the page. And then finally, we've got my TBR shelf. I read Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, and for this one I gave it 4 stars. So I'm going to fill that in with this kind of brown marker. And then Wild Reverence was a 5-star, so that gets the green marker. And that is it. We can jump into our final flip. I hope you had an amazing reading month, and I'm so excited to share with you what we're reading in July. I've got some thick books already, so lots to talk about soon.